Hi everyone, welcome back. So today we are going to do a quick overview of MLA and APA citation, and hopefully this will explain it and make it seem at least a little bit less difficult. So I'm in the Microsoft Word today rather than like a PowerPoint, just because I think it's a little bit easier to see what this looks like on an actual page in this format. So I hope that that helps. So what is an in-text citation? An in-text citation is a citation that occurs after a summary, paraphrase, quotation. I'm going to delete some of this. Or really any piece of research or information that is not from you, but from a source. So you can also see my presentation about plagiarism and how to avoid it. If you're worried about this, is it common knowledge? Is it from a source? I kind of go into that there. But you are going to use these in-text citations to show where you found your information. This is also known as a parenthetical citation because the information occurs in parentheses. So these little scoopy things right here, right? It's going to come in there. A bibliographic citation is different, and a lot of times students might get these two terms mixed up, but a bibliographic citation occurs in a bibliography. In MLA, it's called Works Cited page, and in APA, it's called the reference section or the list of references. This is the last page in the same document. A lot of students turn it in as a separate document. You need to put it in with your paper, but it lists all the sources or pieces of research that you cited in the text of your paper. So if you have a quotation or a paraphrase or a summary that you've cited, it should have a corresponding bibliographic citation, meaning that in these parentheses, you give me quick information, the author and the page, sometimes the author, the year in the page if you're doing APA. In the bibliographic citation, it's more information so that if I wanted to go back and look for that information, I could find it. You can imagine why this would be really important for something like medical research, for example. APA stands for American Psychological Association. If you we're doing research on the same subject, like let's say we're all trying to cure cancer, then if I'm reading your paper, I can see that somebody did a research study that's kind of like mine in 2015. Now it's 5, 10, 15 years later, I need to find out what happened with that study. I need more information. So I'm going to go to your bibliography or your reference section or your works cited page to find out exactly where that information could be retrieved, the full title of the study, where it was published, all of that kind of thing, so that I can go back and read it later. So that's really kind of the point. The in-text is to give quick information so that the person can then find more information at the end of your paper. So the two primary types that students in college use are MLA and APA. MLA stands for Modern Language Association, and they put more emphasis on the author. So this would be in disciplines like English, languages, cultural studies, literature, and the basic citation. There are two forms. The first is to have the author in the introduction to, I'm just going to say here, to the quote or to the paraphrase or to the summary. So here I would say, boom, Dr. Smith writes, and then the quotation, and then the page number, 82. There we go. The other way is to not include the name here and have something like research shows, and then your quote or your paraphrase, your summary, and then you would have the last name and the page, like that. Easy peasy. That's all you need. So the formula is either author in the author's, let's try that again, last name, in the phrase, and then the page in the parentheses, or the last name and page in the parentheses. Move that up a little bit. There we go. So the introduction or the signal phrase for the quote and has the author's name, then it's just the page. If there's no signal phrase with the author's last name, then both go in there. APA is a little bit different. It stands for American Psychological Association. It focuses on the year. And you can kind of see why. Look, if a book was written by someone in 1585 or 1985, somebody in a language studies program isn't going to care, right? They just want to talk about the book. So it's not important as much that you have the most up-to-date thing that you're talking about. Although it is helpful for other pieces of research to be up-to-date other than just the book. But the American Psychological Association is for things like psychology, criminology, economics. You can see why the year would be important, because if I'm studying economics, I need to have recent information about the economy. Or if I'm studying something like depression, I want to know what the current treatments are. So the year is going to be a little bit more important than MLA. So in this case, we could have, in the signal phrase, we're going to have, we'll look at Dr. Smith again. Dr. Smith, and then the year. Let's say it's 2021, writes, and then the quote, again, or paraphrase or whatever, and then they would have a P and the page number, 82. So, the author's last name in the phrase as well as the year in parentheses. And then a P and the page number in the final parentheses of the sentence. All right, looks like that. If you don't have that, if you have something, again, like we had up here, research shows, XYZ, I'm going to copy that over. Then in your parentheses, you would have the same information we just gave. Smith, 2021, P82. That's it. So here we have the last name, the year, P, and the page number. There's a couple variations on these that you can look for in other places. If you're in my class, I have given you links to the school library. The OWL at Purdue is also great, the online writing lab. But let's take a look at a couple examples to look at a few of the variations when we just have one author. First, this is the kind of thing I sometimes see. So I have Mother Tongue by Amy Tan. It was published in 2006. And then I have my quotation and it appeared on page 23. So I've got all the info, right? What I sometimes see in people's papers is first they put a period here instead of at the end where it should go. But I see like crazy stuff. I see like they'll want to give like all the information. Amy Tan, Mother Tongue, 2006, first published in, like that kind of thing. Or sometimes they'll have the bibliographic citation, which again is too much information in the text of your paper. You don't want to trip up your reader's eye by having that whole citation. Sometimes also I get the URL. So let's say like amytan.com/mother-tongue, like whatever the case may be. This is not what you want to do. This is not what you want to do at all. Okay, so what do we want instead? Just the author's last name and the page, if it's MLA, And if it's not MLA, if it's APA, then we would have a comma, 2006, and a comma and a P, and 23. That's it. Again, super easy. All you have to remember is the last name and the page. And if there are no pages, we're going to look at some examples of that in a minute. So here's another example of a paraphrase. Remember, we still need to have a citation when we have a paraphrase. So, is the author's name here? Why, yes, it is. We already have the author's name. So we're going to do the MLA citation first. What page is it on? Oh, it's right on page 1. The author's name is in the phrase, in the same sentence, so we're just going to have the page number in the in-text citation. Here for APA, we need to, let me highlight that so you can see. There we go. Again, period goes at the end. Ruth Damey and the year 2019 defines workplace bullying as, and then P, page 1. Okay, so that's a great example of a paraphrase where the author's name is in the sentence, so you don't need it again at the end. Let's look at another one. This one doesn't have pages. It has paragraph numbers. Okay, so you really want to talk to your teacher about what to do if you're writing an MLA format and there aren't any pages. Different teachers have different requirements. The MLA does not require you to put what paragraph it is on, but some people do. So if you have a teacher that does that, you might want to have like paragraph 4, like that. What I like my students to do is what the MLA requires, which is just the author's last name. Now, I realize that you had that in the introduction to your quote here, but the reason I'd like you to have it again is so that you are showing that you can do citations and that you're not plagiarizing, essentially. So here with this quote, it's going to be important to show where you got your research, and I want to make sure that you know how to cite it, basically. You can also do, let's do an APA citation. The writer further describes his days learning French. And then we have the quote. Whoops. Then we have the quote. And then the citation's going to look a little bit different, right? We don't have... There we go. We don't have the author's name here, so we're going to have it at the end here. Sedaris, 2000. And then for APA, they do require para, period, and then the paragraph number. If it's more than one, it's paras, and then it would be like 4 to 6 or 4 to 5, right? But here it's just going to be paragraph 4. Okay, so it's kind of similar to before. The author's last name, the year, and then here we have paragraph instead of a page, just showing that it came from an online source without page numbers. Let's have another example. So here we have a summary of the article, Some Lessons from the Assembly Line by Andrew Broxma. And his name is here in the, so I'm not going to write another sentence to introduce this, but I am going to do the APA citation. His name is not in this sentence, so I need it again. And it's pages 1 to 3. So it would look like that. First page and then a dash and then the last page. And the APA citation, going to be very similar with a few tiny differences. I hope you know them already. 2016, the year of the publication. So I'm going to add that in up there when we first talk about the author. I'm going to move this down so you don't, there we go. You can see it a tiny bit better. And then in my last citation of this summary, I have Broxma again because it's not in this sentence. 2016, and then more than one page, pages 1 to 3. Okay, so that's it. MLA is author and page, APA author year page. That's it. Use an in-text citation after a quote, paraphrase, summary, or any piece of research from sources. If you're in MLA format, you just include the author's last name and page number. If you're in APA format, it's the author's last name, the year of publication, and a P or a PP if it's more than one page, or a PARA if it's a paragraph. And then you leave out the rest. You don't need a URL, you don't need publication information, you don't need the author's full first name in those parentheses. You save that for the reference list or works cited page. I hope that this helped, and I hope that it clarified how to do these in-text citations. They're really not as hard as they appear at first. Thanks, everybody.